I am Iron Jen, small business owner by trade, speaker by passion, mom and wife by choice. You know, I've gotten to wear many hats in my life and had lots of interesting adventures, from Olympic style weightlifter to Ironman triathlete, and yes, even a firefighter. And you know what? I am not done yet. So when I say that I teach people in frontline roles how to be resilient and prepare for the unexpected, I know because I've been there. We have all had those moments in our life that test us, those fires we didn't see coming. Well, today I want to share with you one of mine and how that one experience illustrates the principles that my teachings are based upon that will help you go from a state of reactive to proactive. We were walking around the house real calmly, and we were talking about, what we were going to see. And honestly, Jeff, I don't know about you, but I can only think of a few things at that moment. First off, there was an open cellar that had probably been open for years, and all I could think of what was living down there and what was going to come out at me when we went into this fire. And the other thing that I kept thinking about, and I know I should have been thinking about the fire, I get it, but I couldn't get out of my head, is there was a pile of bat poo in the house.
3
that
feet
was
high.
Yeah, it went over our boots. All I kept thinking of is those bats are in there and they're gonna get in my hair, they're gonna get in my uniform, like in my bunker gear. And so fire was kind of the last thing on my mind when we were doing the 360, because all I could think about were these bats coming at me with these big fangs. And so as we're doing, true story, Jeff.
I wish I would have known this at the time.
So as we're doing our 360 around this old white farmhouse, it was pretty calm the first part of the walk around. And as we look up, you can see this black smoke coming out of the second floor window. I mean, it was very black. And as we started to round the corner, you could almost feel the tension of our instructors at that moment. Things started to change, because as you looked up at this window, and I'll tell you, at that time I was no fire expert. That is more than a campfire. Like, this is shooting out 3, 4, 5 feet of flames.
It was rolling.
I remember our instructors were starting to get really anxious.
They ran up to us.
Yeah.
And said, "You need to get in there now and put that out."
No, and they're yelling. They're like, "Now, get your stuff on now." And you're fumbling with this stuff. And honestly, I kind of felt at that moment how my kids would be as a mom. I'm yelling at them, like, "Get your coat on, get your boots on," yelling at them in the morning. And we're fumbling with this stuff.
I was excited.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, but we get our stuff on, and Jeff's at the front of the hose. We're picking up this charged hose line. So you gotta figure we've got 40 to 60 pounds worth of weight on us, extra weight. We've got this mask on us that literally feels like you're Darth Vader. In fact, all you can hear is kind of that Darth Vader breathing, wouldn't you say that?
Yep, especially once you go in and it's a heated environment with heavy, thick smoke. It's like throwing blankets over the top of you. And if you imagine having 3 sleeping bags over the top of you, and then breathing through a mask, that is what it is like to be in a lot of these fires. And I remember they're like, "You need to get in there now." So we went in through the lower level, through the kitchen,
yeah,
dragging the hose.
And it's a heavy hose, like it's fully charged worth of water. And so when you go around corners, it doesn't bend, and it's just heavy, and you've got all your gear on. And as we walked in that door, we walked in the living room, we've got our instructors very anxious.
We stopped
yelling
in
at
the
us.
living room.
We stopped, thankfully, we stopped.
And I remember looking up the stairs where we were going. There was no smoke. It was very calm. But when I looked up, the walls were orange. And every once in a while you would see a ripple go through the walls. And that was the fire. It had gotten to the point it was so hot, burned off most of the oxygen, that it was climbing on the walls, and then I saw it rolling over. And just like you'd see in a movie like Backdraft, when it goes across the ceiling, that's exactly what it was doing. It started to come down the stairs.
Okay, I did not see that.
She would have gone up had she seen that.
What I kept waiting for was the bats to come down at this moment. Like, that's what I was looking out for. Like, where are the bats?
I remember turning around, saying, "This is going to be great. I got the nozzle. Okay, turn around. Are we ready to go?" And I turn around and make eye contact with Jen. And I just nodded, and I get this look. And
I
that
was
it.
thinking about the bats, but then
And everybody had that look. And I'm like, everybody's gonna have to follow me upstairs. I'm on nozzle. And that's when it happened. The whole house shook.
it was a huge, huge explosion, and it was so big.
It rattled the whole house.
Yeah, you just shook.
Yep.
And again, being no fire expert at this time, I was like, I don't think that was supposed to happen. And I don't know about you, Jeff, but my immediate first thought as we're holding the hose, like we're dressed all in our fire gear, my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, somebody call 911. And then it hit me. We are 911. I'm at that point, all I want to do is turn and run. Like,
But she didn't.
as I was sitting there, I was thinking, you know, I've got a choice. I can go forward with Jeff, I can turn around and run. And it was a huge decision moment. And it hit me like, why am I doing this? And the reason why is to serve our community. And in order to serve that community, that choice was right then. Like, if you want to serve your community, you have to push past that fear and move forward. And that's when Jeff looked at me and he said, Jen, let's go have some fun. And I thought, you and me have a very different thing of what fun is, because this is not fun. This is like terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And if it wasn't for him at that moment to kind of snap me back, I don't know. I don't know if I would have had the place of mind to move forward. It was a reality check when he called my name, like, okay, snap out of this fear. Like, why are you here?
And my whole life has either been law enforcement, firefighting.
That's
I've
why I
been
went in the fire with
coastal
Jeff.
lifeguard. I've done everything. And I remember I turned around, made eye contact with you. The first thing that went through my mind was, boy, she's a long ways from the person I met on the first night when I'm nudging my buddy from the fire department. Did you hear what she said? She's afraid to put the mask on because she's claustrophobic. You know, so now you're behind me and I'm like, let's go, Jen, you can do this. But the other two members had the same look that you had, where they looked at me, they looked upstairs, and you could tell they were processing it too, like, I really have to go do this.
They were very experienced instructors.
They were excited.
They were screaming at us
excited.
like an explosion just happened, and they just started screaming at us, move it, move it, move it. And you feel clumsy. You're carrying this big hose, we're wearing 40 to 60 pounds worth of extra weight, and you're going up this really narrow staircase that at one point you could see up the staircase, but at this point, it is literally a ceiling of fire, and fire is raining down on us. And you're having someone scream in your ear. All you can hear is your breathing. You can't feel anything because you've got these clunky clothes on, and we start charging up. Jeff's at the front. He's got the nozzle, and all of a sudden, Jeff opens the bell. For those who haven't been in a fire, what happens is when you put water on fire, steam and smoke. Like, you go from being able to see 3, 4, 5 feet in front of you to seeing nothing, not even.
Thermal layer comes down. You have a thermal layer that it can be anywhere from 500-600 degrees. It just depends on the fire situation. The minute that you introduce water, that thermal layer drops down on top of you. And it's not common with our gear. We'll get steam burns through our coats. Anywhere where our skin's up against it, we'll get steam burns because it's that hot. And it just goes instantly dark. The fire's out, but that's when the real battle begins, because that's when you get the muffled voices and everything, and you really have to be close to your partners in the fires to communicate. That's actually how firefighters get separated, is once that thermal layer drops, it's like throwing a black blanket on top of you.
Instantly.
Instantly, yep.
And literally, you cannot see the hand in front of your face. As we're sitting there, it's pitch dark. You can't hear anything but your breathing, and it's breathing fast by now. And you can't feel anything, you can't smell anything, like all your senses are gone. You're completely in the dark. And even though you're like, I knew Jeff was in front of me by a couple feet, I knew that, but you feel very alone. Like, you feel very isolated. all of a sudden, out of the
I
blue,
let you know you weren't alone.
yeah, Jeff let me know he wasn't alone, because all of a sudden, out of the blue, I feel this tremendous pressure on my chest. And all of a sudden, I'm off the ground by that much. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can hear this roaring water in my ears. That's all I could hear. And I realized at that moment, as Jeff had opened the bale and he's turning and he's putting out the fire, he has no clue he's doing this, but he accidentally turned the hose on me. Now, I don't know if anyone listening to this has ever been hit by water from a fire hose, but it's a pretty interesting experience.
It'll get your attention.
Yeah, it'll get your attention, but it's pretty forceful. And as I was standing there levitating, on these steps, there's nothing you could do. Like, it was terrifying. But again, it just hit me. Why am I doing this? Like, why? And it was simply went back to it's serving our community. Like, who knows at what point in time that could be, one of my friends in the fire, or, someone that you're saving, your neighbor, your person you go to church with. Could that be my kid in the fire? And literally, that was the only thing that kept me going step by step by step by step forward, is just the thought of like, why am I doing this? Like, what is my mission? And that mission was simply to serve. And in doing so, it helped step. And having Jeff there, it was so helpful, because it was someone that you're on the journey with. Their mistake controlled our environment at that moment, and it was so important for us to realize that we had a choice in how we reacted. We could run, we could go, we could get the heck out of there, or we could move forward. And I guess that was such a good lesson on no matter what our environments are, we always have that choice in how we want to respond to that. It's kind of like that Winston Churchill quote, to get through hell, you have to go through it. And that's exactly what we did, is we just went through it. Sometimes you don't always feel like you know what you're doing. You don't always feel like you're worthy or that you have what it takes.
Jen's right, about her Winston Churchill, that the only way through hell is to go through it. I think about that fire. We were in hell.
Yeah.
If we were not in our gear, those conditions were not survivable. If any one of us would have had a problem with our mask, anything, it probably would have been fatal. That's how hot it was when we went in there, and we went through hell. In life, anything, it's anything that we're going to do to get through it, it's going through hell.
It's nice to have someone to go through it with.
Yes.
And it's nice to think that, hey, we don't have to take 100 steps, but we just have to take that first step.
Yep.
And then the next step. And sometimes we need others to kind of pull us, and sometimes we need to push others. But when you go through it with someone, it helps in that resilience and in helping you through that. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the core of who we are, knowing that mission of why we're doing what we do, and just being able to focus on the next step, that's it, the next step, and to breathe. And it's crazy when you're thinking, human nature, we don't go into fires, we don't go into problems, we as humans, we try to avoid them when possible, but fire raining down, you are walking into a ceiling of fire where heat is over 500 degrees, and you're thinking, this is nuts. Like, this is really hell. It's hell. And the choice at that moment, like, am I going to walk through hell?
It is taking that deep breath. Mm-hmm. Just one step at a time. No fire's ever the same. And they're never calm. They're never organized. They're chaotic a lot of times. You get there and you have fire coming out of windows. You got to establish water. You got to get in, you're trying to find out other victims, and it's just chaos. A lot of yelling, taking that deep breath, and then going and doing your job. And literally, for us, stepping into that fire, walking into hell. We are walking into fire to do our jobs.
It takes so much focus and energy that if you've got something over here going on in life that's going on and you're thinking about it, like you can't do that. It's impossible. Bad things are going to happen. That domino effect, that's when it happens, is when you start having problems in one area and it carries over into another and it just dominoes over. And that's why it's so important to have things like resilience in our life, so that we build that cushion of sorts, so that when those times of chaos come, because they will come, is that we can fall back on that things like self-care and resilience and taking care of ourselves. It's absolutely essential to have the things in our lives that help us be resilient, to help us have that one-step mindset, to be able to just go forward no matter what, to be able to breathe. One step, what's the one thing I can do? And sometimes during those times of chaos, literally it is a baby step forward. It's not, leaps and bounds forwards, but it's that one minute step that you can take forward, that baby step that gets us to where we're trying to go, to gets us through hell, to gets us through those fires of chaos and challenge that we all face.
Well, that moment will forever be a teachable moment. Every one of my teaching principles came into play that day. Jeff became my superhero, not just because he reacted in the right way at the moment of chaos, but because he was intentionally prepared for the unplanned. As frontline folks, leaders, first responders, or really anyone responsible for putting out the fires at work, so often we share a common flaw. And that is that we tend to focus on taking care of others, so much so that we oftentimes forget to take care of ourselves. Well, let me tell you, that was yesterday's superhero, the one who didn't stop to ask for directions. Today, while honestly, it's still hard to ask for help, it can be a tough thing to do, we know it's really one of the key elements for our everyday heroes to become strengthened from within. And that's where I come in. Hi, I am Iron Jen, sharing the stories of my many adventures that taught me about the keys to being resilient and the techniques I've used as a first responder to prepare for the unexpected. Getting to serve others that impact our communities, oh my gosh, that is what I am passionate about. So if your team needs a boost of encouragement and some strategies to strengthen your leaders from within, just reach out to us at theirongen.com and we'd be happy to help, because now, more than any time in history, we need to be taking care of our everyday heroes.